Okay, in this class, we're going to look at past perfect. We'll look at a couple of examples how we describe what past perfect is, the past of the past. Okay, so to understand this, let's look at how we understand time. So this is me talking to you now in the present. So we know we have the future, which we looked in other videos. The future, we know, doesn't exist. The future is an abstract thought in your head. Time itself is an abstract thought. And more often, we use our auxiliaries to describe not the future, but how we feel about the future. Once again, we looked at this in past classes where we looked at models, where we describe, for example, the difference between I should do something, I had better do something, and I have to do something. All of them describe I need to do something, but they describe introspectively different ways that I feel about that. So more often, in this case, models represent how you feel today about the idea of the future. And so the future is not real, it exists in our thoughts. The present is real, and the only thing that is real is I am recording a video. The simple present is how we describe facts in our life, the building blocks of our life, the things that are true. So we go one step back from the present, we have the past, and this is where we tell all our stories. This is how we kind of explain who we are by what we did. So what is a past perfect? Well, the past perfect is just the past of the past. That's it. And in grammar structure, it's like what flat earthers might call the ice wall. It's the furthest we can go back. If I wanted to tell a story here, well, then the past perfect would be one step back from here. And so what is that? Well, the past perfect, in many ways, helps us to define what I call shadows. So if I were to say, for example, yesterday or last night, I was exhausted when I went to bed. All right, so what did I do here? Well, here we have the simple past. Why? Because I'm telling you a story. So that simple past, this story happens here. And so the thing about the past is linear. We choose one point of time, and then we tell the actions one after the other, from at least in our Anglo-Saxon kind of approach and our Western approach to language, it's always from left to right, this linear progression of storytelling and a linear progression of language. So last night I was exhausted when I went to bed, and I could continue the story. I brushed my teeth, I got change, I gave water to the animals, and then I went to bed, whatever. But here I've just decided to describe one moment in time. I'm telling my story about my emotion, how I felt at that point in time. Now, I want to describe the why. And the why, it's because of this. So I'm allowed to, with the simple past, go back and get one bit of information, usually one bit of information to explain why I am this way. So last night, I was exhausted when I went to bed. I had just come back from a 12K run. And that's it. This is now my past perfect. This is one bit of information that helps to explain why I am this way. And so this is what I like to call painting shadows. There are many ways that we describe light and shade in language, and that we paint with our words. You'll always hear that expression that, a picture paints 1,000 words. Yeah, but 20 or 30 great words can do far better than a fucking picture. It can give you it can take you inside that picture. It can put you inside the frame. And so that adage, it only serves to discredit the power of words. Words are fucking beautiful, absolutely. So there are many ways that we work, just like an artist will work with shadows, light and shade inside their paintings to give it depth, realism, to give it a sense of tragedy, or to give it a sense of some emotional significance, some dimension. Well, we do the same thing with words. We do the same thing with language and storytelling. Light and shade describes everything. And so there's many ways that we describe shadows. We looked at this in other videos where we look at used to describes the shadow of who you were in the past, maybe the weaker and insignificant and more ineffectual version of yourself. Maybe I never used to, I don't know, I never used to run. I used to be sedentary. Not really me, but I used to, and this is true, smoke 3 packs per day. I used to have anxiety, or bad anxiety. The thing with used to, we know the opposite is true today. So, who you are today is just what you do, the verbs that you do. Verb to do, not verb to be, verb to do. And used to is a way that we can describe, almost like a Frankenstein's monster, this version of you in the past. So if you're happy today, the version of you in the past is always sad. If you're sad today, well, the version of you in the past is always happy. It's this version that haunts you. Once again, like as Jung would say, like your shadow. So here, we just found another way to describe shadows. Your shadow explains why you are this way right now. And so, it's past perfect because our story has happened in the past. I'm telling my story. Anytime we tell stories, the story is always once upon a time, era uma vez. It starts in the past and it moves towards now. It moves always in a linear direction. Where the fuck is left to right on the camera? I have no idea. To me, it's left to right's this direction. Probably to you, it's the other direction. So let's look at another example of this. In the present perfect, it's exactly the same. You say, I am exhausted. This is how you are now. This is your state. Remember the result. Well, then let's describe the process. Well, I've just returned from a 12-kilometer run. That's it. This verb to do describes why you are verb to be. Remember, just to repeat some nonsense I'm always saying in every single video, verb to be describes the result. Verb to do describes the process. Always. And normally, when you just use verb to be, the person always asks why or how, because people want the process. Verb to be never tells us anything. This is where we get our story from action, from verbs of action. So this in the present perfect is just right now. So me in the present, where am I? Fuck. In the present, telling you how I am, and that present perfect will come off that. It's a shadow of that. That just says, yeah, I've just come back from a run, or yeah, I've been working since, I've been riding since 7 o'clock this morning, blah, 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 blah. Well, the past perfect is just we started with one point of time, once upon a time over here, and then we were allowed one bit of information to explain why the person is this way. So let's look at it in another context. Do I have enough pages on this? No, I don't. All right. Fine, let me come in here. All right, so let's do a happy poem. Fucking poems. John went to Walmart and bought himself a gun. Then he went to work and murdered everyone. All right, so in the same way I mentioned that we start in one point of time. John went to Walmart. That's here. We define one point of the past. But from this, our story is always linear. It's always moving from left to right. So John went to Walmart and bought himself a gun. Then he went to work and murdered everyone. So it's one event after the other after the other. That's how we tell stories. It has to move in a linear direction. But then we want to know, well, why the fuck did John do that? Well, he had been fired the day before. Now the past perfect does what? It helps to explain why John went crazy, why John did what he did. And so if the incident here with John, so this is me telling you the story, and this is when John did all these things, well, we want one bit of information here that explains why that happened. Now, if I start to tell my story here, he had been fired the day before, but now I want to talk about getting fired, well, that becomes a simple past. The moment I focus and I start to tell the story, it's always a simple past. So that day, he arrived at work late, and his boss told him to blah, 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 whatever. Doesn't matter. If I choose to talk about the day he got fired, that now becomes a simple past, because our stories always happen in the simple past. That's what the simple past is. It's storytelling. It's where stories happen. The past perfect is just this one bit of information that we're allowed to cast a shadow, and our shadows always explain why, in this case, for storytelling, they explain why an action happened. So we come up back to these basic ones here. Where is it? Fuck. Here. Last night, I was exhausted when I went to bed. I just come back from a 12K run. Beautiful. And we'll look at more. So this was just one example of the past perfect, one example of how we use a structure. And we'll do a whole bunch more of these later. But right now I'm going to get back into fucking writing. So I only took a break from that shit because I ran out of ideas. So listen, thank you very much. You know all the nonsense. If this video helped you in any way, like, subscribe, share, I don't give a shit. If you got to this point of the video, hey, here's to you. Here's to both of us, because I got to this fucking point as well. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.